Hi guys and welcome back. This time around I'm bringing you two IEMs which are basically the latest releases from both KZ and TRN. I'm talking about of course the KZ ZS12 Pro X, a 1+5 hybrid, and I'm talking about the TRN VX Pro Plus, a 1+8 hybrid. Anyway, I'm not going to take you through the unboxing because the unboxing of either one of these IEMs is a simple affair. They are, they are basically a reflection of their price to a certain extent. The VX can be bought for anywhere between $35 and $45, while the ZS12 initially was around the $50 price bracket. It's now come down a little bit and you can buy it for around the 35 to 40. There's two versions available. There's the version without the switches, which is the version that I have here. I was waiting for the version with the switches to also include in this review, but I decided to just do it, otherwise it's just going to take forever. I've been now waiting a month for that particular IEM. So this is the version without the switches, and then there's the one which has the tuning switches. Anyway, when that one arrives, I'll also review it, and I'm sure there will be slight little differences, mainly basically focused on the bass, which is usually where the differences occur. It's been like that already in the Rhapsody, it's been like that in the ZS10 Pro 2, it's been like that in the Hydro. So anyway, like I said, ZS12 Pro X 1+5, it uses, from what I was able to ascertain, the same 10mm dynamic driver as the ZS10 Pro 2, which is the latest generation 10mm driver from KZ, and then it uses four 31736 BAs each one of them in pairs, so there's two dual arrays of them, and then it uses in the nozzle a single 30019 BA. The usage of that BA in the nozzle brings with it pluses and minuses, but we'll discuss that further in a couple of minutes. Otherwise, what else can I say? It's got a nice solid construction. I mean, it's got a nice build to it, nice looking shell, very similar to the ZX10 Pro shell. It's got like this matte finish, solid. It's got nice weight to it. I'm actually using also a KZ cable, which I bought separately. The stock cable I think is a little bit too simple, and that's basically it. So fit is fine, build is quality is, build quality is something which KZ has, I think, mastered by this point. They've been able to find a happy balance between offering a good quality product for a very, very high value, especially when you're taking into consideration the effort they put into the build. Okay. So that's the ZS12. This particular ZS12, I actually got it from KEEPHIFI, because I wasn't being able to get it from anywhere else sooner. As I said, the other version, which is the switched version, I even ordered it before this one, and it's been now over a month and it still hasn't arrived. Anyway, the next IEM that I have here is the TRN, the VX Pro Plus. This is their flagship. The VX has always been their flagship. It's gone now. We had the VX, which, if you guys recall, were all green basically when they came out. The shell were all metal shell. Then we had the VX Pro, which we had the Tiger edition, which was all red, and then we had the silver edition, which was just normal, and now we've got the Pro Plus. Straight away, the thing that I noticed was not only has the price dropped significantly compared to the previous VXs, but the quality of the build is nothing to do like this is plastic shell, and I have to say that I was a little bit disappointed. Although it does look decent enough, it is a plastic shell, very light. It just, it looks the business, but once you pick it up, it just falls apart, in my opinion. So that's a bit of a disappointment. I mean, especially when they have the Medusa and they have the Conch, which both of them have nice build qualities. I was kind of expecting something, a little bit more solid. I mean, they could have maintained the price around the value of the previous VXs, or done a mixed build like they've did with the TA series, the TA3, the TA4. But anyway, look, it is what it is. So overall, in terms of the build quality, and considering that these two IEMs are basically the same price, This has got an inferior build quality to the KZ. This is a OnePlus 8 hybrid, as I mentioned before. It's using a beryllium coated 10mm dynamic driver, and then it uses a mixture of 50060 mid-range or mid-focused balanced armatures and 30095 high frequency focused balanced armatures. From what I was able to ascertain, the 4 balanced armatures of the mids are actually in the shell, and then of the 4 which are focused on the high frequencies, 2 are on the nozzle and 2 are on the shell. And again, you know, with the pluses and minuses that you get from having BAs on the nozzle, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, we'll discuss first the KZ, and then we'll move on to the TRN. I've got here the ZS10 Pro 2, the CCA Rhapsody, the CCA Hydro, and then on the top there I've got the KS10 from KBE, and I've got 2 other IMs which are in a completely different price range, but I thought it would be interesting just for you guys to kind of get a perception of what the ZS12 Pro X is all about, which is the SIM-GOT SM4 and a full Explorer. All of them basically have always got the kind of 1+4, 1+5. I mean, this is 1+4, this is 2+4, that's 2+8. So it's but it's always arrays of the 31736 BAs, which is the ones that they're also using here on the ZS12. That's a 1+4, that's a quad brid, and that's a 1+2. So these kind of almost the same, similar setup all the time, but like I said, there are reasons why I've chosen these IMs. When you listen to the ZS12, immediately you notice that the sound is extremely clean. It's a very detailed, very clean sound. Not that you don't get that in the ZS10 or the Rhapsody or the Hydro, you do, but that extra cleanliness that you're getting, or that extra detail that you're getting, is basically down to that BA sitting in the nozzle. And there lies, you know, I want to say the conundrum, but there lies the issue. With some songs, that extra detail that you're getting there is very, very surprising and agreeable and correct. And then with some songs, it just is a little bit too much. That's, mind you, my opinion. Okay, and why do I say that? I say that because I just prefer the way that the BAs were implemented in the Rhapsody and in the Hydro, and even to a certain extent on the ZS10 Pro X. I'm just going to call it ZS10, Pro 2. I'm just going to call it ZS10 for the sake of being easier. It's not a deal breaker. I wouldn't call it a deal breaker, but there were some songs. Let me see here. One that, for example, you might understand what I'm trying to say. There's a song here called Piano Man by Wolfgang Hafner. It sounds fantastic in all of, basically in all of these IMs. They've got their pluses and minuses playing that song. But in the KZs, let's put it, the KZs, the CCAs, it sounds fantastic, unquestionable. However, I get a slight sense of a little bit of a sibilant. I wouldn't even go as far as saying it's, but you get a little bit of that sensation of beginning of sibilance or something along those lines at some parts of the song. You know, something which on the ZS10, the Rhapsody, and in the Hydro I don't get. And it's not that it was annoying me or anything of the sort. What it did mean was that you would have to be just that extra more careful, in my opinion, with regards to what tip you're choosing and what source you're matching. I did all of the listening basically with the TP50 this time around. I had the Yoki for a little bit there. I had as well the M15. I had the RU7, but it was interesting to see that the TP50 was the one that was actually able to bring the nicest harmony in terms of sound with actually all of these IEMs. I would say the M15 did benefit slightly, things like the KS10 did benefit slightly as well a little bit on occasion the hydro, but overall, it was interesting to see how the TP50 was the one that kind of came across the best with all of them. Okay. Bass, it's nice, it's smooth, it's got this nice gliding style of bass, no bleeding to the mids, more than enough weight, plenty speedy, plenty, nothing to be said there, nothing honestly to be said there. Actually, in essence, the bass here is basically the bass of the ZS10, and I like the bass of the ZS10, so it didn't really, I wasn't surprised there. What the difference that you do notice between these two is the ZS10 can sound, in my opinion, a little bit more organic, a little bit more realistic, because it doesn't have that BA there in the nozzle, which can bring in a little bit more coloredness to the sound. Having the BA on the nozzle, it does make the sound, like I said, with certain songs a little bit more fake, in my opinion. It's not a deal breaker, it's not offensive, I didn't dislike it in any way, I'm just saying what I heard. Yes, it did also bring the benefit of giving a little bit more detail at lower volumes. So I wouldn't really say one is worse or one is better. I would say that these two IEMs also, it's they basically got the same hardware. The difference here between that one and that one is just the extra BA on the nozzle. And even when I show you the graphs in a second, you'll see what I mean. So what I would like to compare is, of course, the switched the version that has the switches, and I have the feeling that the version with the switches might allow me to give just another dB or two more energy to the bass, which will perhaps then allow that BA on the nozzle to still be there, still bring to the table what it's doing, which is that extra amount of resolution and detail retrieval, but not sound so much as it's there. You notice it. That's, I think, the main thing here. The main thing here is that you notice that you have that BA there easily. You swap back and forth between the ZS10 and the ZS12, and you notice that there's something there. Graph wise, it doesn't look like it, but you notice there's that extra little bit amount of energy, which enables you to pick up on that BA timbre. Again, non-offensive, nothing of the sort. I'm not saying anything. It's just so that you guys understand that you do pick up on that BA there in the nozzle. All right. Male and female vocals, fine, nothing there to be said. Instruments, they sound perfect. Honestly, there's really not much I can nitpick or I can criticize, because KZ has been offering some very solid products over the last couple of years or two. That's the reality, and it's a pity that maybe sometimes their marketing is not the ideal and that they kind of go a little bit overboard, and it's also a pity that maybe they launch so many IEMs so quickly, which basically are just slight revisions of the previous version, just slight alterations. It's a pity that they have that marketing philosophy, that way of doing things. It's actually a pity, because I think that they would benefit from since they have now, let's say, gotten the tuning right. I think they would benefit from a more down to earth, more sensible approach to marketing their products, instead of wanting to always comparing them with products which are substantially more expensive and saying that it's gonna destroy them and kill them and plays better. I don't know. I just feel that kind of approach is never a healthy approach, and it creates more enemies than allies. But all of those issues aside, the reality is ZS12, ZS10, Rhapsody, Hydro, Vader, Trio, all of them are very, very well tuned, and they sound really good. Okay, that's the reality. There's no point in me here trying to no, that's the truth. And then when you couple that with the price that they offer their products for, you can't really complain. And that's why then I can understand to a certain extent why they use their marketing, because you take something like this, and that's where now, for example, we have the case there of the Explorer and of the SM4. For the, let's say, less trained ear, or for the person that is not so astute, you listen to this and you listen to those two, and you'll probably say that they all sound very similar, and you won't really pick up on the differences. and you'd say, well, why would I go pay $150 for an SM4 from SimGod when I can pick this up for about 45? You know, and then if you look at things that way, then you see value in the ZS12. That's the reality. Now, obviously, when you start listening with a little bit more detail, and when you are in more ideal conditions, and you start looking for certain aspects, you know, then you start picking up on where this you know, falls through a little bit earlier and is not as polished as products like the SM4 and the Explorer and other many more other expensive products. Now, this all comes down to, are you listening to, or you getting an IM to compare its abilities technically wise, or you're getting an IM to just enjoy music? If you're getting an IM to enjoy music and to get a very high level of performance, then let me tell you something, KZ will fit the bill 90% of the times. That's the reality, 90% of the times. And I'm not saying this defending KZ or anything now. I mean, I can say KZ the same way. What I've just said for KZ, I apply it as well on the Pro X, on the Pro Plus here from TRN. I say the same thing about the TRN Conch. I say the same thing about the Medusa, but more so the Conch. The Conch, and you can pick it up now for $20 roughly. The Conch offers a performance which is very much on level with things like the Melee, not the Melee, the Olina, very much on the same level of the Olina, if not even perhaps better than the Olina. Okay, you know, if I actually have to come sit down and say, okay, what does the Olina do better than the Conch? Nothing. The Olina does not do nothing better than the Conch. And the same way I say Olina, I can say, for example, many other I can say Aria 2, I can say let me see another, I can say even one, I mean, it was an IM that I personally enjoyed a lot, which was the 12022, the 12020. I mean, you know, the reality is this, the quality of the IMs over the last 2 years has improved so much that you can get a very high level of sound and a very high level of reproduction without having to spend a whole lot of money. So if what you're looking for is an IM that will play music back, you know, well, and will be enjoyable and will satisfy most genres, definitely the ZS12 fits the bill. Compared to the ZS10, like I said, the difference here is a little bit more detail, a little bit more twinklies and sparklies. You know, it's up to you. Do you want something a little bit darker as compared to the ZS10? And when I say darker, it's just that you don't have that extra amount of details there. Or rather, let me correct that. This has got a more perhaps correct amount of detail, while this has got that little extra amount of detail, which for somebody like me, which is a little bit deaf, might be appreciated. Okay, but you can't really go wrong with either one of them. Let's be frank. You can't really go wrong with either one of them. When I now compare the ZS12 with something like the Rhapsody or the Hydro, then I have to say that my personal preference goes for those. And I'll say why my personal preference goes for those. It goes for those because both of them have got a dynamic driver handling a significant amount of the mids. I'm sure that the dynamic driver in the ZS10 Pro 2 and in the ZS12 also is handling quite a bit of the mids. But you notice that you have those BAs here, while there in the Rhapsody and in the Hydro, the way that the BAs have been blended with the rest of the drivers has been such that you don't pick up on the BA so much. So what you get is a more coherent matching of all the drivers. And for me personally, the timbre and the tonality that I get out of these two, so the Rhapsody and the Hydro, is more along the lines of what I personally like. All right, and again, let me repeat, there's nothing wrong with the timbre and tonality of these two, nothing wrong, but here you will notice maybe a little bit more that BA timbre if you're not so careful with your choice of source or the tips or how you actually are, you know, able to fit the IEM into your ears, while over there the BA tonality is a little bit more dissimulated, more so in the Hydro even than in the Rhapsody. So overall, what I can say about the ZS12, solid IEM. You know, its life will be determined by when the next model comes out that will dethrone it. That's unfortunately the reality. All right, so that's basically the ZS12 out of the way. As for the TRN, the VX Pro Plus, compared to its previous VX siblings, a superior IM. It's as simple as that. Better in every way. A better executed bass, a better executed implementation of the BAs. You don't notice that BA timbre as you did notice in the VXs, in the previous iterations of the VXs, especially the original VX, which was still a 1+6 if I'm not mistaken. Then it became a 1+. Then in the Pro it became a 1+8. Here, that implementation has been out of all the VXs the best so far, without a doubt. Even compared with the V90, which was also a very nice IM from them a few years ago, it's the better implementation. So the bass and the way that it marries with the BAs, I think it's the most sensible that they've done it up to now. When I compare the bass here of the VX Pro Plus with the ZS12, it's got a little bit more mid-bass thump, a little bit more mid-bass clarity. I don't think it's down to the driver being beryllium coated or anything of the sort. I think it's just down to the way that it was tuned. So it's got a little bit more mid-bass impact that you can notice on some songs. Let me see, things like Cha Cha Loco from Joe Jackson, you notice it. And let me see another Control from Blue Ship, you notice it. Blurry Sequence from Lazy Driver, you notice it. Shocked from Poison, you notice it. It's a little bit more fuller, and because of that little extra fullness, I think that also helps camouflage then that BA timbre that can occur later down or later in the frequency range. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is I haven't opened the Pro Plus, but I did open the previous versions of the VXs, and the crossover network in them is very, very basic. Compared to the crossover networks that are being used now in KZ, I'm sure that the ZS12 has got a more elaborate crossover, and it's also the fact that it's using that very elaborate crossover that enables it to have, to a greater extent, that tuning that it now been able to do. And KZ themselves have said that the tuning of their latest IMs has been based highly not only on a mechanical tuning of dampers and so on and so forth, but also on a tuning which is done electronically, which is something perfectly normal and acceptable. I mean, just look at the case of the Full Performer 5. They were the first to start having, well, the first, no, but they were the first at the lower price bracket to start implementing very elaborate crossovers with RLC, networks to enable a perfect matching and a perfect tuning of the drivers so that to do away with any resonances and so on and so forth. And that's basically what KZ has been doing, and that's the reason why you look at many of their graphs and they look very similar, because of that implementation of a passive electronic network, let's put it that way. Obviously then the drivers that they're using and so on will ultimately then dictate certain differences in terms of the tonality and the timbre and so on and so forth. But and I'll show it to you now. You will see now the graph, for example, of the Rhapsody and the Hydro is almost identical, and you listen to one and the other and you can very easily pick the difference. You can very easily identify one and the other. So the VX Pro Plus, I don't know, as I haven't opened it, so I can't say for sure that the crossover network has been done as simply as it was done on the original VXs and the VX Pro, but I'm sure here in the Plus they've done a little bit extra to make it sound as coherent as it sounds. So overall, as I was saying, bass nicely executed. It's got a nice mid-bass stamp, nice transition into the mids, a little bit more forward in the mids than maybe here the ZS12, but it's got a nice execution of the mids. That area there then between 6 and 9, a little bit more energetic than what I would have liked, but again, because you have that little extra amount of bass coming from behind, it kind of counteracts that, so you don't really get any sibilance or anything of the sort. It's actually they sound similar at times, with the exception, as I said, of the bass being a little bit fuller here, but it's a difficult one to explain. Maybe when I say what I'm about to say now, you'll understand better what I'm trying to convey with regards to the TRN, the VX Pro Plus. As I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, you notice that the mids there in the Hydro and the Rhapsody are mids which have a kind of a backing which is DD based, while the mids here, although possibly also DD based, they have a lot more energy coming from those BAs. And here you would think that that would be the same case, but the VX Pro kind of is an in-between. You get the feeling that the mids, yes, are BA, but they have a bit more presence of the DD than what you get here. So you get kind of like an in-between sound, and just the way that everything just comes together just honestly conveys a very pleasant sound. And I have no hesitation in saying that in terms of hybrids from TRN, this is their best hybrid so far. Best hybrid. Before this one, I would say that crown would go to the TA4 and to the ST5. But this definitely is the best one, and even compared to the ST5, which is a 1+4 that they have, which I very much appreciate and very much like, that can sound very much BA timbre-ish. You can pick up on the BA timbre, you know, with I wouldn't say relative ease, but you can pick up on that tonality, although it's not offensive. But while over here it's more subdued, it's more relaxed, you don't pick up on it so much. One thing that I will say that did benefit highly the Pro Plus, for me at least, was the usage of these wide bore tips, and that's something that I would recommend you you know, doing if you consider purchasing it. Anyway, I've already kind of semi-compared it here to the ZS12. The fact that the ZS12 has got a better build quality, I think that in itself, you know, is already a pointer for the ZS12 as compared to the Pro Plus, which I think it's a pity. Sound-wise, you know, I can't really... they are both very good, although you know, if I go back to that issue that I mentioned about the ZS12 maybe in occasion sounding a little bit too colored or a little bit colored because of that BA in the nozzle, over here somehow that BAs in the BAs in the nozzle have been implemented in a way that I don't feel it as much as I did here on the ZS12. That's the reality. But the truth is this: they are very, very equal in terms of sound. You know, you can't really say that there's a huge difference. Ultimately, with the version which offers the tuning switches, I would say that this would be the better choice, the ZS12 with the tuning switches. But without the tuning switches, I think, you know, it will be down to what price you can get one and the other, honestly. Again, and let me repeat, this does have a better build quality, but sound wise they are very, very, very similar. Comparing the Pro Plus with something like the KS10, which I got above there, they have a lot of this they have a very similar vibe, a more mid-bassy sound, and you know, but it's interesting because the KS10 actually does have more energy in the mids. But for some reason, the way that they've then implemented the BAs there, and the way you've implemented the BAs here, that there sounds slightly darker than it sounds here on the TRN, on the KB here. It sounds darker, and it just sounds, it's just got a warmer sound. So I would say that's the warmest sounding you know, that's of these two, that's definitely the warmest sounding. This one's got a little bit more detail retrieval, a little bit more twinklies and sparklies, so and costing very similar prices as well. I think this would probably be the one that would satisfy the most. I mean, compared to the SM4 and the Explorer, I mean, I'm not even going to compare because those two are again superior IMs. But it was actually interesting to see how, you know, and the normal just listening situations without sitting in a quiet room or something, it's actually interesting to see how competent the VX Pro Plus was. You know, that's the reality. Compared here to the ZS10, ultimately, because it's got the switches, I would say the ZS10 does have the ability to edge out slightly here the Pro Plus. Not by much, but it does edge it out ever so slightly. And then compared to the Hydro and the Rhapsody, I prefer these two over the Pro Plus. And that's basically it, guys. I mean, like I said, the ZS12 is a very competent IM. It's nicely built. It's nicely tuned. I wish I'd had the tuned version here, so that I could also talk about it to you guys. But comparing this non-tunable version, let's say the one tuning available, comparing this with the the other similar options from KZ, I personally still feel the Hydro is the one that comes out on top. Obviously, it's way more money. But if we are going to be talking about similar kind of money, I still think that the Rhapsody is the one the one that satisfies me the most. And it basically comes down to the fact that the mids there, or mids which are very much DD focused, they're coming from a DD, the way that the BAs have been implemented just allow for a more natural and more realistic sound, as opposed to these occasions here on the ZS12 where you can feel it's a little bit fake, a little bit colored, and I mean, again, this is just me really nitpicking. Honestly, this is me nitpicking. Comparing the ZS12 to the ones on top there, the ZS12 is superior to the KS10. Well, superior. Again, it depends. If you want a darker sounding IM, if you want something which is not got so much BA presence or noticeable presence, then the KS10 will be the one that makes the most sense. So it's down to choice. And then compared to the SM4 and the Explorer, it was just interesting to see how the same situation that happened with the VX Pro Plus happened. There were occasions where it was actually quite interesting to see how all three sounded very similar, and only when you really started pushing things you then saw this kind of falling apart, and you could then notice that the SM4 was just a more elegant execution of everything, and the same thing goes for the Explorer. It's just more elegant execution of how things come across, just more polished in the way that the mids are done and the treble and everything. And basically what I've said for the ZX12 I apply to the TRN, and I repeat, together with the Conch and together with the Medusa, this is definitely up there with the best that TRN has offered. I'm waiting as well on the White Tiger. That should be an interesting IM to review, and looks promising. At least the setup looks promising. So it seems that finally, it's not only KZ that are being able to give us properly sounding IMs, but KB here is slowly starting to launch IMs which are sounding more solid, and TRN seems to also be on a decent roll lately. And that's it, guys. All right, I'll just quickly show you the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for the ZS12 Pro X as well as the TRN VX Pro Plus. Okay, let's start here with the graph for the ZS12 Pro X, which is this one here. Okay, this one. As you can see, a very nicely executed graph, really nothing that can be pointed as a negative. A nice gliding sort of bass. We're talking about 68, about 10 dBs either way, 10 to the bass, about 9 to the mids and highs. Really nice spin again, peaks at 3 and then starts slowly dropping off. Loads of energy there past 10k. This 8k peak here, a couple related to a certain extent, but nicely done. I mean, you look at this graph, and if a couple of years ago you were told that this was a KZ, you wouldn't believe it, obviously. So this is the ZS12 compared with the ZS10 Pro 2. And this is in the version which is the switched. This is with the switches, obviously, and it's in the 1110 switch. You can see that they are very similar, and by looking at the graph on its own, you would never think that the ZS12 has got more energy there in the upper mids and treble. But the reality is, when you do listen to it, yes, it does. It does, and it's easily noticeable that you got the ZS12, you put on the ZS10, and you notice that you got that little extra amount of energy there, and it's all coming down to that BA placed in the nozzle, which I mean, it's not that it's been badly implemented. It's been fine. It's okay, but you can pick up on it. So it's all down to how coherent and how everything is matched. And although it's nicely matched with the rest, you do pick up on it that there's something extra there, which with certain songs, as I said earlier, it can be just a little bit too much. It's okay. A little bit less would have been nicer. I'm expecting that with the version that allows for the bass to be tuned, for the switches to be tuned, that I'll be able to get another extra dB or two there out of the bass, and then maybe kind of mellow things out a little bit more. And I have a very good feeling about the ZS12 Pro X, with the switches being then maybe something that I can say is on par with the CCA Rhapsody in terms of my personal preferences. So let me just take away the ZS10 there. Compared with the CCA, the Rhapsody, and the... Actually, let me just show you the CCA Rhapsody and the Hydro first. So this is... let me just make sure. Yes, this is the Hydro, okay? And this is the Rhapsody. And as you can see, they basically graph the same. I mean, very much the same. The Rhapsody, two 8mm DDs plus 4 31736s. Okay, and then the Hydro, a 17mm, 18mm, and then 8 31736s. I mean, they are graphing identical. Okay, you listen to one and you listen to the other, and again, if you have been listening to a few IEMs for a while and your ear is got the minimum amount of training, you'll very easily pick up on the differences between the two of them. The Hydro just comes across as being more polished, more elegant, more... It just does it very well as compared. And I'm just going to leave now the Rhapsody. I'm going to remove the Hydro because it's way more expensive. Comparing the Rhapsody with the ZS12, okay, which is ZS12 number 19. There we go. Let me just change the color, make the color red so it stands out. Okay. I think the biggest thing that works in favor of the Rhapsody is the fact that you notice a little bit more mid bass from the Rhapsody. And as well that you have a DD handling a part of the mids, just gives that tonality and that timbre that personally I prefer. It just sounds more agreeable to my ears, because as you can see, there's a lot of similarities in terms of the overall tuning of the mids, upper mids and treble. A lot of similarities. I mean, in essence, they're basically using the same BAs, 31736. There's just one extra BA in the case of the ZS12 in the nozzle, but there shouldn't be too much difference, and there isn't. It's just how things are done back here. 110mm on the ZS12, 2 8mm on the Rhapsody, and that then conveys a different feel in terms of harmonics and so on, up into the mids and the highs, and a different timbre and the tonality. All right, so that's that. Now, comparing the ZS12 with the KS10, so that you guys can see how they match up. Again, let me just change here the color of the... Let me just change here the color of the KS10. So it's... There we go. Sorry, this is the KS10. You would think that they kind of, okay, they're going to sound similar, they're going to be very similar in the sound and so on and so forth, and you couldn't be further from the reality. The bass, although graphically it looks like it's the same, the bass of the ZS12 is a little bit, it's cleaner, but not but at the same time not as present, not as imposing as the bass of the KS10. And then on the KS10 side, you would think that, okay, but it looks like it's got the same sort of energy in the mids and so on. Let me just make this blue. I think this will be a better way of identifying it. Yeah, there we go. You would think that they would sound similar here and so on, and no, it's definitely not as detailed up top. And this whole area here as well is way more subdued. It's not one is better than the other. They just have two very distinct types of tuning. Okay, so that's the KS10, and then, like I mentioned, just for the sake of curiosity, this one that I'm going to show you now is the Explorer from a full. You notice, yes, that the the ZS12 is a little bit more detailed in the upper mids and treble. It's got a little bit more detailed retrieval there. But in terms of the overall tonality and how it comes across, I just feel that the tonality of the Explorer is just a little bit more agreeable to my personal preference. Okay, and this is the Explorer using some Divinos velvet tips, and then compared to one of the IEMs, which I think is not wrong for me to say it's a reference in its price point and a reference across many other price points. The SM4 from SimGot, again, a lot of similarities in the way that the graphs are done one and the other, but the SimGot is just a more polished product. Even though it seems like it's a little bit thinner in the base than as compared to the ZS12, no, it's got all the energy that you would need. It's just an absolute fantastic IM. Honestly, it is. I really think, the same way as CCA has the Hydro, and that will be a difficult one to beat. I think that the SimGot, the SM4, is a very solid IM, and it will be a hard one to beat as well. It will be a very, very hard one to beat. Anyway, I'm going to be having the EM300 now to review as well, and we'll soon find out, because basically the configurations are very similar. Anyway, that's then the KZ. As for the TRN, the VX Pro Plus, number 20. There we go. Again, when you look at the diagram, it's nothing really offensive, only really that area, like I was saying, roughly there between 5, 6, and 8 kilohertz, you've got a little bit extra energy there. But the interesting thing is you don't really notice it as much as you would think, because you've got a nice, healthy amount of mid-bass weight coming from behind. Everything sits within, in terms of the bass, we're talking about a gain of the bass of about 10 dBs. Same thing with regards to the mids and the highs, just that little slight peak above there, that 10 dB barrier. Very, very similar when compared now to, for example, let's get the KS10 out of the way here, because it's the one IM that also had a very similar style of graph. And I think it would be interesting to just get this one out of the way. As compared to the KS10, you can see very similar bass execution. The KS10 also seems to have more energy in the upper mid and so on and so forth. But when you listen to one and the other, no, it isn't. The KS10 is definitely a more tamed down version of the VX Pro Plus. And the VX Pro Plus just sounds more realistic, in my opinion. It just sounds, it's not that the KS10 sounds bad in any way. No, it doesn't. But I would say, look, it's what you prefer: a more warmer sound, or which in the case of the KS10, or something which is a little bit more detailed and doesn't go overboard in terms of BA timbre and so on and so forth. Then fine. Then the VX Pro Plus. As compared the VX Pro Plus with then the ZS12, which I think is one that we will definitely want to see how they fare up to each other. In terms of the bass, you would think that the bass is the same, but no, the TRN's got a thicker bass. Okay, the TRN's got, I think the TRN's bass is what I'm hoping I will be able to get from the tuned version of the ZS12 to then control that energy that we have coming from the BA on the nozzle. Okay, yes, the TRN also has the BAs on the nozzle, but because it's got that energy here of the mid bass, it kind of controls it very nicely. And I would say that energy that's coming from the BAs on the nozzle is this area that you see here, this 5 to 6, 7K peak. That's those BAs there in the nozzle. As for the rest, very similar. They actually have a very similar vibe, and it sounds like I was saying just a few minutes ago. The ZS10, the ZS12, you notice that you have the BAs there, in terms of the mids and so on and so forth. While when you listen to something like the Rhapsody and the Hydro, you notice that a lot of that BA of that mid-range information is now being helped out by a DD and its accompanying timbre and tonality, which is different. And the VX, that's I think the interesting thing is, although you have 8 BAs. I think the fact that they are using multiple BAs, and it's the same situation that happens with the Rhapsody and the Hydro. The reason why the Hydro sounds, I think, tamer with regards to the BA timbre and tonality is because you have a lot more BAs doing the work that is also being done by the Rhapsody in that specific frequency range, but each one of them are working at a lower let's say range, or working not as hard. So overall what you get is a much more controlled distortion level and detrimental harmonics with regards to bringing about that timbre and that tonality of the BAs. And I think that's what has happened as well here with the VX Pro Plus, is because they've got multiple BAs handling the mids and multiple BAs handling the highs. They've been able to confer then to that specific range of frequencies being handled by those BAs a timbre and a tonality which is not so much BA but more kind of more subdued, more relaxed, and ultimately what it means is it makes it just sound, you know, nice and realistic, non-fatiguing, and it's something that like a couple of years ago you would never expect. I mean, you know, as I mentioned as well, if you think about it, 1+8, 1+7, you had those IEMs 4 or 5 years ago, but the way that they were tuned and the way that the drivers were matched, it was just kind of just throwing things together. And as of late, you can see that brands, especially the cheaper brands, have started adopting a more intelligent approach, and it's showing itself by you having products at $40, $50 playing on the same level as you had similar products a couple of years ago costing $200, $250 even. You know, that's the reality. You know, I don't want to say any specific brands here, but come on, there was some stuff that back then you would say, oh wow, that's amazing. And now you have these cheaper products, especially like I said from KZ, because they have been the first ones to have been getting into this vibe of giving really well-tuned IEMs at a very affordable price. TRN now is following suit, and KBR hopefully the same thing, that, you know, you just don't expect. And if instead of saying ZS12 Pro X, if it said something else, or of a more, let's say, more or less mediatic brand, you know, you would say, oh wow, this is something fantastic. But the problem is the marketing approach that KZ has is maybe not the ideal, and that ultimately doesn't work in their favor. Anyway guys, that's enough of me ranting and going on. I think both of these IEMs are very solid. They are really very solid, especially for the price they are offering. The differences or the choice here between one and the other will come down to how much it costs where you live in that part of the world. I will again repeat, yes, the KZ has got a better build quality. I would have liked the TRN to have maintained a nicer shell. They could have done the shell like they've done on the ST5, which is roughly the same $45, $50 price bracket, and it's a nice metallic shell. I would have liked that. At the same time, I do question myself, is it the fact that they've used now a plastic shell, that it also has helped change the overall timbre and the tonality of the IEM, and helped out in it sounding as good as it sounds, because in essence a lot of the parts being used in the Pro Plus are the same parts that were used in the Pro before, and because it had the metal shell, it just came across in a completely different manner. It wasn't as nice as sounding as now is the Pro Plus. You know, all of these factors are always important things to remember and keep in mind. So it's price, you know, what sort of build quality are you looking for, and what is your preference in terms of music style. These things will ultimately dictate, because, you know, the truth is they both sound really good. You know, I personally, like I said, prefer the Rhapsody still to the ZS12. I still think it's one of the best IEMs that KZ have launched. I'm not even going to talk about the Hydro, because again, that's significantly more expensive. But the Rhapsody is a fantastic IEM, and if you have a Rhapsody, you're not going to be getting anything more, honestly, from the ZS12. If you are looking for one now and don't have anything, I would definitely say yes, the ZS12 is a solid option, but I think go for the tunable version. I think that will enable to get a little bit extra out of the tuning there, and maybe do away with those minor little points that work against the ZS12's ultimate performance. Okay, guys, as always, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. You take care now. Bye-bye.